Hi, my sons. Man, I am tired from that Breath of the Wild review. It was a triple-decker with all the different versions, but I can't wait to have this video be about the Nintendo Switch 2. I am so excited. The launch itself was fun for me, and others, of course, but the actual launch itself sucked. Hello? Huh, that's weird. First of all, I put it on vibrate. You can check the last episode for that, but, you know, I don't normally do politics on, you know, my show. I'm a professional YouTuber and all that, but my curiosity is piqued. Yo, why not? Yellow, Mr. President?
Glitchy, or Pops, as your subs call you. You have some of the most beautiful sons, love them, great people. I am in need of your expertise. You see, without Elon helping with the budget, we are thin on money. I know you would do this for free. You're a great guy. Europe has an initiative called Stop Killing Games. I want an initiative in America, but I want it to be bigger and greater. Less waste, more preserve history. I need someone legally qualified. Someone with a degree. Also someone who wants algorithm bait.
Shit, I don't know, man. I don't have the budget for that right now. I mean, I'm making a PC out of a mini fridge. You know, and I'm a deadbeat out of college. You know, parents disappointed and all that other happy stuff. Also, I don't know how people would feel if I'm, you know, working with you. Not saying that, you know, working with the President of the United States isn't a great honor. You know, it's just, you know.
You realize it's a skit, right? Anyone who sees this outside of comedic entertainment has never seen a funny parody. I don't want to hear it. You couldn't even afford an AI voice of me, so you found your good friends over at Nintendo Friends, beautiful bros, handsome men, I dare even say. You have no budget. Putting a picture of me to keep a joke going, you just want to talk more on how to make the gaming industry better. As of making this video, layoffs are happening at Microsoft's Xbox in hopes to power AI-based games.
Oh my god, that is terrible. Wow, glad I'm not doing the gaming industry anymore. Like I said before, I'd rather take my chances with the YouTube algorithm at this point, but, you know, I'm not making games for companies or anyone else. I mean, I have one on Steam, but, you know, I mean, there's also one I work on in my free time, but...
Yes, it's a terrible one on Steam. What would it take you to support me in this mission? It's for the greater good of games. I know you have an image to uphold, even with your tiny sub count right now. I have millions and millions of followers. You barely have a drop in my bucket. You could say I'm huge.
I mean, was it really that bad? Only 3 people made it. Fine, alright, fine, just... What would it... Tell you what. If another popular creator gets into politics, one that hasn't been into politics before, you know, I'll help you with your cause. For free, guarantee. Let me think of one. How about Matt Pat? He never did politics, and, you know what, he's retired, so you know what, your chances are, like, slim to none, but, if you agree to that, sure.
Sure, I love this video on Rosalina. Very creative, very bright guy. Coiffed hair, and handsome, but not as much as me. You know, even I visited the Devil Artemis universe, too.
Hold on, wait, does that mean I'm canon in the DAU, or does this just, like, is it just you who's canon in the DAU?
Not just me, we will be in touch though. I will send JD over with the proposed executive order.
I mean, that's cool, but I didn't agree to this, and... He hung up. And sent a video? Oh, man! Oh, now he's calling back. Glad I put it on vibrate this time. Yes, Mr. President?
Next time, get an AI to do my voice. Maybe then your channel can be huge. I expect to make this executive order by the end of the week don't let the gaming community down. You will be heralded as a great American gaming historian, inducted potentially in the Library of Congress.
Yeah, it's fine, coming. Let me just unlock the door. It's not like you can't break it down anyway. Thank you. Yeah, you could just leave it on the ground. It's fine. Because you have no hands and you're just making baby noises. Okay, cool. Thanks. Alright, fine, I have it. I have these, Make Games Great Again initiative. Courtesy of our president and vice president. Let's, Oh, wow. It's, No, it's not. These notes aren't bad. It's not finalized, but these notes aren't bad.
Well, that's why the gaming industry has experienced so many layoffs recently, to a point where I can't even keep track. Why do you think I want to set fire to my degree?
Well, my sons, I've decided that once I make 6 figures on this app doing, social media, that I will do something to this degree. Now, it could be, I don't know, raising money to feed the homeless. It could be taking a Angry Video Game Nerd style diarrhea dump on it. It could be, just whatever the most liked comment is on maybe this video or another video. I'll leave that up in the air, but I feel like, doing something with this degree might be better than just actually going to college for most people, and, I'd like people to keep that in mind. Because this is, my thing. College really didn't do anything for me.
Though video game layoffs are nothing new, the industry is, for the most part, contract work, which is not good. This keeps developers jumping from project to project without any real knowledge of the company's future. Okay, so look, here's a made-up example. Say you're working on the next God of War game, right? And that has a 1-year development cycle. No planned DLC, no patches, and everything else is done in-house if there were any patches.
Okay, so people who actually have jobs.
Besides those few hourly or salary wage positions, basically, those contract workers who aren't that lucky now have to search for their next contractual obligation. So maybe they find the next Doom game in development and they decide to do contract work out there. Well, too bad. The previous game that was a complete success, God of War, now is getting DLC. Now that it's in your contract to work on said DLC, now you're stuck between 2 jobs that is going to stress you out completely because you've overbooked yourself technically. Just because the fine print says may need you in the future didn't really give any room for this last-minute decision, or potentially last-minute decision, depending on how the developers look at it and what the time lapse is. So now that you're working 2 developing jobs, it's kind of stressful for any developer and might impact the quality of the game, or God forbid, the person who's actually working on the game, putting their life essence into a project that millions are going to enjoy, and only a few are going to reap the financial benefit of. This part of the proposed executive order would be for more transparency with developers and its workers. Adding more NDAs, sure, but, no one anticipated the DLC for God of War Ragnarok, as its previous game didn't even have so much as a hair of DLC. This was just an example because everyone was blindsided by the DLC of God of War Ragnarok, and I thought it was a very relevant area to talk about.
Okay, more transparency between the executives and the peasants that, don't really have stock options or receive any kind of royalties for anything. Okay. There we go. Okay, there's that one. What's next?
Oh, this one might be a hot take, but remakes and enhanced versions of games are next on the chopping block. Video game remakes and enhanced versions seem to be so common these days, mainly because companies are running out of good ideas, or they just want to stick to what works, and that's fine and dandy, but sending these games out over and over again isn't great. Not only do I feel preservation purposes for these remakes and enhanced ports should be more of a way to play the original, and the remakes, of course, being a way to pay newer developers, but also acknowledging the previous development cycle. To honor the original team, besides their names in the credits, I actually feel that the original should be packed in. Seeing as it's really not that big of a deal, outside of enhanced ports, which normally have the same development team, this really wouldn't cost much, if anything. There also wouldn't be that much storage space to really complain about when it comes to putting the original games in certain copies of newer games, and also the enhanced ports. Sure, if you want to argue that it should cost $10, that's fine, but originally a lot of these were actually free, though these big companies don't want to pay for their employees, so I guess we the people have to.
Anyone else remember that game studio that laid off all of its developers, but the game won a reward and no one was able to pick it up? Did they still get that award?
Oh, I'm just kidding, they took that back. The thing is, it's even weirder when you look at the history of it, because some games actually used to come with the original still in them. A good example of this I like to come back to is Metroid Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance, where beating the game once unlocks the original Metroid for free. One game that I would have loved to have seen this for is Super Mario RPG, seeing as I loved both versions of this game, and they control very similar, though being able to swap between the original tracks and the newer version of, like, the tunes is, I guess, a nice consolation prize.
Okay, so this part of the executive order would basically make it so that it preserves the original copies of games inside newer ones. This way players can experience both the old and newer version. Depending if it's a remake or enhanced, it doesn't really matter. They're still going to try and do that and, figure out how that works, even if they have to condense it a little bit or just make it a toggle. But, seeing as how companies don't also mention the original developers in some instances, I'm also going to annotate this in so that, original developers for remastered games are also mentioned. I'm looking at you, Metroid Prime HD, and, just make sure you credit the original developers, who poured their life into a game for others to enjoy. Okay, that's great.
Before I go to the next example, I feel like it's important to talk about public domain in simple terms. It's something that's available to everyone. A good example of this is Steamboat Willie and Winnie the Pooh outliving their public domain usage rights. Now that anyone can use them, they are doing crazy things with them, sure, but now they're in the public domain, so we can kind of do what we want with them. Now, you may be saying to yourself, why a company or companies don't put stuff in a public domain for people to freely create with? I mean, it's a kind of an obvious answer.
Money, 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 money.
But what about those projects that have been completed for years now and stuck in licensing hell? They would otherwise be considered lost media just because there's no way to re-release them without pissing off one or both companies. Take almost any game from the NES library. Flintstones, Spider-Man, X-Men, these games aren't going on NSO anytime soon, so if a game is not available to purchase or is public, I feel like it should be made free online in some kind of forum or some way for others to play, since getting some of these games is, oh my god! So maybe a public digital storefront that is a paid subscription, maybe backed by, I don't know, people or developers or someone who, you've put in charge as kind of a leader on this. I feel like you should also be able to have the right to purchase the game outright if that was really the case, giving money back to the companies and or who is in charge of providing the service. Giving people the Nintendo eShop experience while also enjoying the benefits of Xbox Game Pass. You're able to pick one or both depending on what premium you want. I can also see a DK Oldies style storefront for companies to sell games for older hardware if people still have the older console but didn't get the chance to buy the game. Maybe being able to be purchased at the MSRP it was at that price, giving consumers the chance to just play the things that they want versus the new slop that they really just try and push out. This way the consumer doesn't feel screwed over because they're getting the thing at MSRP from when it once was originally released.
Okay, so this limits companies who don't want to preserve their media. Also, giving the consumer the, option to experience old things in a new time. Love it, love it. I also think I'll add the clause that if the, companies don't want to preserve it or it's in some kind of legal hell, that, it'll be up to the community to preserve this art and history since, mom and dad can't settle it in the divorce. Let's see here. Or leaving it up to people who are qualified to do so, maybe potentially up to a company like the National, Video Game History Foundation. That's a good one. Let's see here. Okay, and, I just also, I need to be excused because I mentioned DK Oldies twice, and for those of you who don't know, DK Oldies is, it's terrible.
Okay, can't believe I'm saying this one either, but next on the chopping block is, oh my gosh, I actually really can't believe I'm saying this. Yeah, this needs to be said, but IGN needs to either be rebuilt, revamped. This organization has been around for gaming for years, and they have not been relevant since the early 2000s in regards to their quality takes, mainly because companies, no doubt about it, have been backing them. They've been a great source for gaming news and a great media outlet for years, and don't get me wrong, they still have their relevancy, but it's clear as day that some games that they talk about, they're definitely bought out by. I mean, honestly, I'm just surprised that they have some of this left.
Just kidding, they haven't had that for years.
They might have had a shred of decency at one point in their time, but a really good example of how they misled people was Sonic Frontiers when they first showed off the basic empty footage of the game. Sega had to clap back afterwards of how terrible it was received, and of course IGN published a statement and all this other happy crap that they did in the future where they were like, oh no, the game isn't that bad, because they completely misrepresented the product. To be honest, I think they even took down the original footage. I could be wrong, but the one I'm showing you right now is the IGN footage that is currently up. I think it's just one of those weird things that I don't recall because it was so bad I didn't even pay attention to it just because it was IGN. It really made me question if a fan or a gamer was playing this rather than just some boomer in their mom's basement. Look, if you really don't believe me on this hot take, go play Doom 2016 and then play Call of Duty Black Ops 3, then look at the IGN scores and tell me that they weren't paid by someone.
Of course I used the AI overview. What, did you think I wanted to give IGN any more traffic that they didn't deserve?
Speaking of AI, so you remember how I said the companies were doing a lot of layoffs? One of the most recent ones was Microsoft. They laid over 9,000 employees, mainly for AI purposes, which, man, I'm in a love-hate relationship with Microsoft because on one hand, they're slowly preserving games with the Xbox Game Pass and bringing Xbox 360 games over, slowly but surely, but on the other hand, they just laid off 9,000 employees trying to lean more towards AI, which basically makes people unemployed. Which, listen, the art of our species has really gone downhill. Don't believe me? This is a McDonald's before, and this is a McDonald's now. Look at them side by side, and you tell me we haven't lost a little bit of culture.
Well, it wasn't like that food was great to begin with.
It's just a new low for anyone in the games industry, and don't get me wrong, AI has its fair uses, but mainly for indie devs. You know, people who don't have full teams. Maybe someone who can't code.
Oh, that's me.
Maybe someone who can't UV unwrap. Maybe someone can't model, but can really code well. The problem is that companies use AI to get money, while artists try to ethically push themselves up a little bit when it comes to that. At least from the good artists I've been seeing. There are a lot of bad, terrible AI art out there, and I get it, it's pretty bad. But AI does have uses. It could be used as a tool if used properly. But the problem is that these are big companies who can either pay to train people better than my college ever could have. The reason I might be telling you why companies have the money to do this is because this is attached to this. And oh, would you look at this? This is also attached to this. And if you really want to go down this route, not only does this company have enough integrity to not use AI, but they have enough money from the 80s and 90s, saving the video game industry to keep themselves afloat for quite some time. AI use shouldn't screw over artists or people who actually wanted to get in the industry with actual jobs. They worked so hard to get. The only true acceptable use for AI should be if a famous voice actor, God forbid, passes away, and they sign their voice to be free for use for everyone to enjoy. And remember the character that brought them so much joy, or above all, keeps someone's legacy long after their passing. The problem is AI is being seen as a way for companies to make money continuously without putting any effort, making only a select few richer and richer. And I just didn't care for that in the industry. It's becoming more and more relevant.
Because college didn't teach me any of the necessary skills for the industry.
Hey, it's me. Sorry, I thought I'd just add this into the video, but as of recording this, YouTube actually just announced that they will be mitigating any AI usage or low-effort videos for people to actually enjoy content on YouTube. So this is a W for YouTube, if this is pulled off and done correctly.
Okay, so this one basically limits AI use for companies that exceed a certain amount in revenue. That's pretty sound. Let's see here. I might add that AI should be free to use, but copying any copyright material is subject to copyright law, blah, 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 blah. AI is a tool, not a crutch for any of the companies or people who make games, as games are officially art.
Oh yeah, speaking of crutches, the biggest crutch of any company now seems to be battle passes or the battle pass system, basically making a live service game where people can pay money over time and above all continue to play the same darn game over and over again with not much new ever really changing because it's the same loop over and over again. Fortnite popularized this and each company has its own variation of it. EA tried this terrible practice where basically Star Wars Battlefront 2 was made into a gambling experience, but then they were sued for literally exploiting.
So that's why EA was voted worst company to work for I think like a couple years in a row. But I know loot boxes aren't the same as the Battle Pass system because you know what you're getting in the Battle Pass system. But it's a loot box if you basically just don't have the time to play it. So you don't know what you're actually paying for, and you might not get all of what you're paying for because you just didn't dedicate enough of your life to a game. So by that extension, at that point, it's like, it's gambling on what you're gonna get anyway, in my opinion. I know some people might not like that, but it just feels scummy, and that's, you know, that's coming from someone with a grand Fortnite locker. I hate it. I wish I got my money back, but I missed that window. I didn't even know it existed. So, that's on me.
Battle passes line the company's pockets so easily, and it exploits the players more, making them pay for stuff in-game that should be free or at least come with a base version, which people don't really know any better, especially kids. However, this is far from the exception. I don't understand why people don't know or have even mentioned it, but the Battle Pass system can only work for this kind of genre of game, and since they become more and more prevalent and more frequent and more repeating, and of course, they keep coming out with them for some reason. I remember when cosmetics used to actually just be part of the game and not part of the, oh, I don't know, pay $5 here and you can look cool.
Hey! This motherfucker got them big keys!
I mean, listen, I suckered myself into it, and I'm not proud of it. Look at my Fortnite locker. I paid God knows how much, and to be honest, I missed that refund check window for Epic Games, so now I just have a braggable Fortnite locker to a 5-year-old, which, I don't know any 5-year-olds, so cool. If you're watching this and you're a minor, please don't interact. I am not a Minecraft YouTuber. What's even funnier is the only exception to this rule of no battle passes doesn't even have that. And I'm not even kidding. I want you to guess what kind of genre of game I'm gonna say is the exception to this. And I don't understand why people haven't even talked about this, let alone even mentioned. The battle pass system can only work for one genre of game. And it's... yeah, I bet you didn't see that one coming. Sports games, it doesn't matter which sport, which game, it doesn't even need to come out every year. With limited changes and reused code and reused models and so much more, sports games really just are the schlop of the gaming industry. That's why they're so dirt cheap at every single GameStop you go to, because they come out so consistently, they print so much, and they have enough money to back the mass amount of printing. I don't know anything about sports ball, so I'm just gonna try and wrap up the idea I have with this. Basically, each team or each game you have in a locker, whatever it is. So say you have a basketball team, and oh my gosh, I'm RGT85, and I want to play as someone from the Knicks. Well, you just go in there, you play as someone from the Knicks, you select what year they're from, or what their stats were for that year, bada boom, bada bing, then you pick the rest of your team based on presets that you, the player, have made, and then that's pretty much it. And also, this could work for pretty much any other sports ball genre there ever was. Listen, I'm not into sports, and the only thing I really see sports as is just a bunch of grown men trying to put a ball in a hole, and that's pretty much it. Look, I believe at one point it wasn't scripted, but even Shaq has come out and said that, yeah, it's pretty much scripted.
Oh, your ring's real?
No,
Oh. So it was scripted. You knew you was getting them.
of course, all day, every day.
So y'all knew you was getting them that year.
Did.
Heck, you could really do this for anything, too. NASCAR, wrestling, tennis. Basically, any game that has a sports motif and can have trackable stats can be put into a live service game for people to play, save stats, and of course, work around things that, you know, would actually be beneficial to the games industry and not putting so much slop on these shelves.
Okay, so I don't know much about sports, but having stats that are trackable over time as a literal live service as things are happening live makes sense. So I'll add that in, and removing battle passes, of course, for games that really don't need it, like, or should have it. I don't know, I find them so predatory. Let's see here. The only issue I have also with the sports game thing is just making sure that it's the save data transfers over from, let's just say, the most recent football game, Madden, right? So I'd probably make an executive order from that point forward, or add it in that save data should transfer from the latest version, and I should also probably add in this little bit about save data transfers, seeing as that's a big issue as well between cross-platforms.
So, you know how on every platform your save data won't transfer, basically? I mean, you can't bring your 100% completed copy of Sonic Generations from the Xbox to Steam, but there are some instances where I question why not. Doom Eternal is a great example of this, where I have it on Steam, but not on PlayStation, and I almost platinumed it for PlayStation 4. See, on top of that, there was an enhanced port for the PS5 for Doom Eternal. So this version of Doom Eternal, which was free, so good on the devs for being able to do that, I'm very grateful. But the problem is that the small gesture seems bittersweet, as your trophies, your save data, don't actually transfer over. Meaning I would have to start all over again. Also, don't tell me it's not impossible. Dragon Ball Xenoverse did it between the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 with the enhanced port. It's possible, but there's nothing stopping these companies from making you waste more time, more money, and you just play it to death to a point where you're questioning why you're still playing it. Like if I had known, for example, that Doom Eternal was going to be ported to the PlayStation 5 enhanced, and on top of that, you know, none of my save data would transfer, I would have just waited for the PlayStation 5 version, which also makes enhanced ports a burden on the game industry. But I think they're kind of tuning it down a little bit. At least as of making this video, the only exception of this is The Last of Us.
Okay, so now that I added that as part of the Make Games Okay, now that I added that to the Make Games Great initiative, just adding that little tidbit in. Next is in the delisting games portion of this, which, oh my, that's a good one right there.
So, look, delisting games on a digital storefront in the first place is weird. Sure, each company has the right to take them down if that's really the case, if the game is terrible or they just aren't selling it elsewhere. But it comes off as a cost experience towards the player where it doesn't really make much sense. Take Jump Force, for example. Jump Force was a game that if you bought it on Steam and so on and so forth, now you can't play online with your friends. Now, why you would want to play Jump Force online with your friends is beyond me. You have to have friends, and you also have to want to play Jump Force. The delisting that kind of ruffled my feathers a little bit, which is nice that I had that much notice, but still, the Sega Genesis Classic Collection on Steam, these games were like $5 a pop, and they provided a unique experience keeping the 90s style room that you could edit if you were interested. Meanwhile, Sonic Origins kind of exists despite the unique experience that the predecessor had. Look, porting games isn't new. It's not a reason to regulate or oversaturate games on the market, but Sega seems to do that. Look, Atari's worse though. The problem I see is that if a game's delisted, there really should be a good reason for it, not just, oh, we're selling the new thing. That is way more expensive and new.
Oh my gosh, fake Donald Trump didn't put one of the most important ones in here.
Yeah, how digital games are handled with the recent events of, gaming companies have abused the power of plastic and CD.
CD's nuts.
I get development costs, but, you know, like, it doesn't really make much sense because, sure, if I'm shipping and manufacturing a cheap plastic CD or a glorified DRM, basically it literally means nothing in terms of shipping. You're just, you know, shipping out empty boxes, basically. Besides the Nintendo situation, which, yeah, keycards, they really are finding out about how bad they are and how no one likes them. The idea of Doom the Dark Ages is basically the same thing. The entirety of the game is basically just one big digital DRM disc. In fact, I actually didn't know that until the day before I was going to physically pick it up. So it was just last minute, and I kind of just felt disgusted picking it up. Now, don't get me wrong, there are many examples of this, but this is just my personal experience and an example I'm using for the sake of this video. Look, I understand if it's for, like, DLC that comes out after the game releases, but, like, I didn't even open the box yet before you told me I didn't own the game.
Alright, so I'm going to actually make it in this executive order that people actually own the games they buy, whether it's digital or physical. And if owning isn't, you know... God damn it. Alright, so I'm going to put this clause in the executive order to make it so that it protects the consumers. Basically, if, buying isn't owning anymore, then pirating isn't stealing. Seeing as when I buy something from the grocery store and I eat it, I don't have to give it back to, the company I bought it from, right? Because, they don't want to pile of vomit. Now, that being said, it does level the playing field between gamers, the consumers of the product, and the big corporations, because... Again, it's not fair that if we buy a product, we don't actually get to keep it. That being said, let's see here. Physically... See, but when you get the game physically, that's also another issue.
Alright, so, this $80 game stuff, yeah, that's bullshit. I'm sorry, but fans have made better games on PC, and the thing is, how does it even balance out? These companies shell out so much money just for what? I mean, mediocre games that don't really do much? At least in the modern age, Nintendo is the only one making quality games. Not really sure why, but, hey, I guess since Nintendo does what everyone else doesn't, though I shouldn't be surprised because I've said it before and I'll say it again, Nintendo sets the standard. They don't actually work for the industry, they are the industry. And that's the thing, a lot of indie stuff is high quality too. You can tell who worked on a project with dedication, love, sweat, tears. And, look at Sonic Mania. Sega hired a bunch of people who are passionate devs, and it brought the most successful Sonic game in years. I know Japan is too draconian in some instances. And, sure, in the States, I think it's completely different. I think it would be more appropriate to just have a path to developership, where people who put work into the industry time and time again, showing that their dedication, or, God forbid, making their own game, should, have some kind of way to get into the industry where they actually get a steady job, where they actually get a fair wage, and they actually get work. The problem is most companies rely, or most indie companies, I should say, rely on a Kickstarter, which should never be the case because, let's face it, games having a competitive environment where people are making better games than big league developers, it kind of spits in the face of a lot of the industry. I don't think some games would have been successful without an indie Kickstarter. A good example of this, unfortunately, is Shovel Knight, a wonderful game, but was backed by so many people. The problem is that every indie game now seems to be like a Hail Mary for every indie company, not being so much as a passion project anymore unless you go to conventions like I did.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll bring the minimum of games back down to $60, right? We'll make digital games somewhere between $35 and $40, depending, because I know server space online, and, there are other factors that actually have to keep games there. We've already decided to make games actually, in the cartridge or in the disc, give or take. Let's see here. Indie games are excluded, of course, because, man, they are struggling right now.
Just check mine out.
You know what? It would still be a great middle finger to my professor, if I somehow managed to, sell over, more than Sonic Boom with the game she told me not to put on Steam during my time in university. Now, that being said, Lau, I know you aren't watching this, but I hope both sides of your pillow are warm at night. And you know what? I hope that you have 1 ounce of milk left for your cereal.
Right, so heritage auctions, or basically any auction place that sells video games for an exorbitant amount of money that really don't make any sense.
Yep, we're just gonna... There we go. Beautiful. Why is it not catching fire? There we go. Don't try this at home, my sons. The Joshins. That was a little anticlimactic. I'm just gonna throw this in the toilet.
Yeah, these companies that actually grade games, but for whatever reason think that they are worth so much money. Yeah, burn them all to the ground, basically ruining the hobby for me and pretty much everyone else who loves video games before, video games were popularized by the mainstream media. This isn't exclusive to any one company. Everyone's getting the smoke here because, they're predatory, and above all, the games really shouldn't cost that much. Also, a little side note here, their grading process actually isn't that fast because now they're getting so many people grade their games, very fast. Same thing with Pokemon cards. They only look for, about 10 to 15 seconds before they give it an official grade. When I actually worked at GameStop, someone there actually applied to one of these grading companies, won't say which one, but basically, yeah, they don't take that long to look at these, and I'm so sorry to anyone who actually gets their things graded by any of these companies and gets a low score because it could, or maybe not be higher. Besides grading Pokemon cards, they've literally graded plastic at this point. Don't believe me? Here's a picture. Yeah, I bet you feel pretty unsettled right now. Don't worry. The reason they should be abolished is once everything is graded, and basically it glorifies preservation in the most greedy aspect possible. It's no longer about saving games, it's about exploiting people's wallets. And I know a lot of these companies won't be sponsoring me anytime soon. Don't worry, I don't have any followers for a sponsor. But hey, it's nice to know that I won't get sponsored by at least this of all things.
Well, unfortunately, still being at 200 subscribers, which is wonderful. I'm grateful for all my sons. I won't be getting any, sponsors anytime soon. And,
This is weird. Huh. Would you look at that? Yeah, man, we got f***ing candles here. Tired of big name brands with similar names to baseball teams taking all your money? Tired of walking into a shop with a whiny batch of people and even weirder prices and obscure deals that you really just don't care about and you just want the product? Well, now you can at the press of a button. Look no further than Royal Candle Co. See, not everyone is picky about candles like me.
hey, I usually make my own.
Well, don't you worry, I don't need Secretary of State right now, RFK, to remind me about the phthalates in candles once they're burnt. But since most of you aren't picky like me, or even know what those are, I will say the smell of citronella is a delightful and wonderful odor that clears up any kind of stinky foul odor. Have a musty air conditioner? Put a Royal Candle Co. near it. Had too many eggs for breakfast this morning? Don't worry, light a candle afterwards. There's a variety of delightful smells waiting for you and your nasty odors. There will be a link down below. If you got a candle from my good friend, let me know what scent you got down below in the comments section.
And remember, if you'd like 10% off your first order, use code POPS64 at checkout. Again, if you'd like 10% off your order, use code POPS64 at checkout. Thank you guys so much, and honestly, it's just great to have my first sponsor. I was really surprised when my friend reached out and told me about his candle business and that he'd like to sponsor me. So thank you again to all of my wonderful sons out there, and I hope you guys get some use out of these candles. Thank you so much. Okay, so the next one is digital storefronts, which, the more I'm reading this, weirder it sounds.
Okay, let's talk about digital storefronts for a sec. There are so many of them, it's kind of nauseating. Steam is the one on top, of course. The shop compresses most of the games industry into one big place. Like, terrible games, but AAA games are also here too. This issue is one that I cannot get past. The issue is one game could be on 3 different storefronts with no way to condense your library or let alone your save data. But the library being the biggest issue.
That is literally what Steam was for.
Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Epic, Apple, Ubisoft, god dang it, EA is here. See how it got slowly worse as I named them? Point is, it's just getting out of hand. No one wants this, and other than the companies who think they can nickel and dime us for everything we have,
They already do that. Haven't you been watching?
there's just too many of them. It would be more logical and more sensible if one company just came in, split the profits to an agreed amount for each provider, enough so that the companies can make their own money, but enough to keep things afloat at the same time. Listen, let the suits deal with it, and if it gets bitchy enough, we'll just, fix the gaming industry ourselves as a community, and not buy anything. You know what, in the fine print here, I'm just gonna put this as well. Basically that if the gaming community can fix an issue, you let them fix it. And if a company wants to swoop in, well then, there has to be some kind of court of law for that. As America, we have that kind of jurisdiction and that kind of legal system where new laws can be made for newer times. So, I'd probably put something along the lines of this. If gaming companies can't pick up the slack with all their money, let the gaming community do it. Seriously, Sonic Unleashed, by extension, reverse-engineered every single Xbox 360 game, a library that was already shut down in the digital storefront end. The digital storefronts have been closing left and right, from PlayStation to Xbox to... Wait, hold on. Why is the eShop red now?
Nintendo, first it was Nikki, but then now you're getting rid of the eShop bag, and now you changed the theme of the eShop before you gave us actual themes in the game. All that before GTA 6?
Literally, these companies can take a tax write-off for historical purposes, preserving online servers and games and shops, and even if, like, they don't want to do it, they can sell it off to a third party and give them a portion, willing and, of course, open to this, that the company would keep it open, charge a monthly subscription base, on a metric poll taken from the community, or the thing is, the average consumer would rather buy the HD version or have a subscription for something like Mario Galaxy, which isn't on the eShop currently, than hunt down a Wii, a copy of the game, if the average consumer wanted to just go and download a game or buy a subscription, making it easier for a game that isn't easily accessible to everyone. The problem is also making sure that normal people are happy along with the collectors. You call this normal? Look, these companies already stress out their employees. I also think limiting crunch time to appease investors should be, at the very least, halted. Sega has been learning that lesson for years, that a rushed game is never good. Nintendo has known that for years, and then everyone else just has enough money to throw at their problems. Also, the chances are that if you have a bunch of billionaire investors in a company, their livelihoods are being paid for quarterly by investing in dividends, which basically pay back people through having stock options, basically.
Remember, my sons, diversify your portfolio. Okay, that kind of seems to be everything in regards on how to make gaming great again. I really hope that it kind of passes through, seeing that it would be good for both the consumer, and the seller. So, I think with all of this jam-packed into one executive order, I think it would be really good, and, there could be more later down the line, and that's fine. That's how people learn and, evolve, is that they take things that they've learned over time and they apply it later on. Now, that being said, my sons, it's, it's not like an ex-employee from a semi-hated company like, Blizzard would knock down a movement such as Make Games Great Again, or, the Stop Killing Games movement over in Europe. That would just be crazy. But, what are you gonna do? Right. Let me go call the Don. Hello?
Hello, I'm ready to receive this so my executive order to make gaming great again came to pass.
Yeah, I have it. It's actually right here. Question, do I get like any credit or some kind of, some cool reward or just something? After all, I'm doing a service for my country, and I just thought I'd ask, I was just curious. You don't have to.
Better you have gained some wisdom, and I have some wisdom of my own. Diversify your videos. I know you should probably tackle that new Mario Kart game, but I have a better idea. Something huge. Go for a low stock option. Something no one will expect. I had it shipped to your place already. Consider it a gift from me.
Well, I got him, and let's see here. Oh, you've got to be. I'm reviewing the Switch 2 first, but oh no. I guess I gotta put the Zelda Marathon on one more episode hold because. Oh no!
Enough likes and suggestions. We will make another fantastic order to make games great again. The Game Grumps have Obama, and now you have me. Congrats on the job. Fantastically done. Stupendous job. Maybe use AI like a tool and give me a proper voice now, Love, the Don.